On today's video, we're going to talk about AWS Lambda using the Spring framework. AWS Lambda has become quite popular in the recent years because it's a serverless technology that allows you to instantiate or create servers on demand. So you don't have to have a server running 24/7. It's just whenever it receives a request, it's going to start your code, run it, and then return it, which could lead to some potential cost savings because you're only dealing with the traffic that you need, and it auto scales. So it's a win-win situation. You don't have to babysit the entire server. You don't have to babysit the entire platform. And also, in case that it grows dramatically, it will scale. So today we're going to start with a Maven project. And we're just going to hit next. And we're going to call it AWS Lambda Demo. Lambda Demo. We're going to call it like that. And we're going to put it in my dev directory. And we're going to create it. And we're going to do it on new window. And we have our project, our basic project. So we need to start adding, first of all, dependencies. Because we need to tell the platform what are the things that we're going to use. We're not really going to start from scratch. We're just going to try to reutilize things that we need. So what we're going to do is that we're going to add some dependencies to the project. And here we're going to add dependency with a group ID, artifact ID, where we're going to essentially tell it to go get another Maven project. So we're going to get org.springframework.boot, and the artifact ID, we're going to use the Spring artifact web to fill in the blanks for that. We're going to add a couple more dependencies. The second one, we're going to use the AWS serverless package. So we're going to put it, I'm copying and pasting the same dependency format, so that way I don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I'm going to put it like that. Also, what I want to tell it is to use Java 1.8. And the main reason for that is that Lambda supports Java 1.8. So I want to put it in here. I'm just going to leave it like that in a very simple way. If I need to add something else, then I may go back. Oh, maybe I should just add like the project property that is going to be my parent. So I'm going to use the Spring framework boot just to look for other settings that are needed for this. And for now, we're going to leave it like this. In the main package, I'm going to create a package. I'm going to call it com.jcrogel. And then inside of my package, I'm going to create a new class. And I'm going to call it Lambda Handler. In this Lambda handler, I'm going to import a few packages. Import com.amazon AWS, and then services.lambda.runtime.request stream handler. And if it is red like this because he cannot resolve it, what we got to do is to open up the Maven tab and just click this to refresh the dependencies. For whatever reason, my dependency of AWS is not connected correctly, so it's a good time to try to troubleshoot it. I'm going to then look for the package that I need to put. So maybe I need to insert the specific version. So I'm going to use Java version 1.3. And let's enable auto import down here. And now it is actually working. So in here, because so I come back to my class, my handler, and in here I'm going to implement the request stream handler. And what it's going to do immediately is that it's going to put it in red, and then I'm going to alt enter it because it needs the method. So I'm going to click to implement methods, and I'm going to just do this thing. It immediately added all the proper extra packages that I needed, like the context or the IO exception, etc., because it's all defined in here. Once I have this, I am going to reply with, I'm going to figure out my response body string. This is going to be just a very simple way of starting to set up a Lambda project into AWS. And I'm going to put something, a JSON formatted status code 200, comma, body, and I'm going to put a hello world. Hello world. And also I want to say that it's not base64 encoded because it's just not encrypted. So, or well, it's not really encryption, but it's just a codification. But we're not trying to like make it binary, or binary as text. We're just sending plain text. So we're saying is base64 encoded, and then we're going to put it as false. And we have our response by doing this. Now, the question is, how do we send that then back into the server? So they're giving us an output stream, and then in that output stream, we're going to put an output stream writer that essentially is going to write a new output stream writer towards the output stream that they're giving us. They're providing us where to write the data. So we're going to put writer.write response body string, and then we're going to put writer.close. And now we have our first application. So we're going to then run this by creating a jar. We're going to right click on the expander of the lifecycle and then right click on the package, and we're going to run Maven build. So what that thing is going to do is that it's going to run the entire thing and create us this lambda demo.jar. And I'm going to copy that path, and in a Mac, I'm going to open this directory, and it is going to have it here. So now that we have that jar, we need to create a way to get into AWS. So if you haven't signed up for AWS, sign up for AWS and start developing that way. So I am logging in to AWS, and I'm going on the services tab, going to find for Lambda. And I'm going to make this window a little bit bigger because at this point, all we need is to start testing. So I'm going to create a new function, and I'm going to call it Lambda Spring Test. And I'm going to select here what I'm going to use. So I'm going to find Java 8 because that's what we selected, what we're running. And we're going to create it with default permissions, and we're going to create that function. Okay, so let me just go back. So we get this interface where we are going to upload. We're going to go through to the package that we just created, and we're going to drag it into the window, and we're going to select that jar to open it. And then here we're going to we're going to put in the similar fashion com.jcrogel, which is my package, and then we're going to select the class name, which is Lambda handler. And we're gonna use this handle request after two colons, just in a traditional argument for sending functions. We're passing here the function pointer. Okay. Then we're going to add a trigger, and a trigger is basically how to get into that function. So the function that we're gonna do is that we're gonna create an API gateway so that we have an HTTP endpoint that we can call that function and create it. So we're going to create a new API, and we're going to call it a REST API. We're going to leave the security open for now, and we're going to leave everything else with the defaults. The idea is that we're creating a RESTful API that we can then later use with any other application. Now, if I was going to go into this thing, we're going to get an error immediately because we haven't really hit save to upload this demo. So it's giving us something that we did not write. So we're gonna save it. Okay, so now we can go again and click on the API gateway now that it was saved. The save button is disabled once you save it. And then you click on that. Now we're getting an error. So, and the error comes from something very simple. When we click, actually, let me go back to this. When we click on this guy, we can go into the parameters of the API by clicking right here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to test the method. And right now, if I did this test method, if I go into, well, first of all, it's telling me the path where it's gonna run it, and then it's gonna test the method. And then we're gonna just use a get. It's responding with a 502 with an internal server error, and it's saying because it's malformed as a proxy response. But we don't really want it as a proxy response. We want it as an actual response. So I'm gonna go here back into the methods. These are essentially like any method type, like get, post, delete. You can remove these or create any different ones. But in this case, I'm making a single endpoint that it's gonna handle every single HTTP method. Again, like get, post, put, and delete. Then I am going to go into the integration request, and I'm going to uncheck this Lambda proxy integration. And I'm gonna verify that this is pointing to the name of the Lambda function that I have, that I want. And this is the one that we just created. So now I'm going to go back into the method execution and hit test again. And we're gonna select one of the HTTP methods to use. I'm just gonna use get again. And now it returned a status code of 200. So the number one mistake that somebody would do is that they're gonna go back and they're gonna refresh this page and thinking that it's working because now it's working in here. The thing is, we need to now publish that version of the API. So what we're going to do, so we go to stages, and then we are gonna hit on create. So we're gonna say stage description, let's call it dev, and we're gonna say what is going to be the deployment. So now we're creating a deployment of that URL. So stage name, let's call it dev again, and stage description, dev test, and we're gonna create our stage for that. And now we can go back into the Lambda function. Oh, yes, on the default. The default field, the default. And this is how, and now we click on the URL, and now it takes us to this response, which is what we set up. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you around.